Is everybody getting back on? It looks like once Rhonda jumped off, she must have been the host. So let's just give it another 60 seconds, allow people to get on, and I'll get right back into it.
All right.
I'm back.
I'm sorry about that, everyone. A little hiccup. Does anyone have any other questions before we get back into things? All right, so if you notice that anyone in your market center was on this call, I know we had probably about 25 people or so, and we're at 15 right now. If anyone has questions, if anyone noticed that someone else in their market center was on the call and is not right now, just reach out to them, let them know to go right back on the same link. All right, so getting back into it, with positioning your client on the deals, making sure that when the time is right, you might be prepping the other side with the scripts to be using. And Marie, I'll make sure that we get the workbook linked to you in a moment. So an example of this is if sometimes the other agents might give you some insight into the situation of, their client really is not wanting to go below X amount or above a certain amount. And just trying to, as we're, asking questions, what questions, what can we do to get there? How do we get this deal together? You'll be able to problem solve with that agent, and you might give them the idea of a way to phrase it to their client. So the better we understand scripts, because it's great to know scripts just when we're speaking with our clients, but the better we understand the scripts, we actually might be able to utilize some of those for the other side of not saying, hey, why don't you try this script? But you could say, well, why don't they do this? And now that agent is going to say to their client, well, why don't we do this? Whatever this might look like, whatever that script might be in that situation. But don't be afraid if there is an opportunity to basically tool them with the script that they need to end up getting the deal done. Another script that I have heard, especially when I first got started, I heard my team leader say it several times in my first couple of months, and then I started utilizing it when I needed to. Rhonda spoke about oftentimes we might end up meeting in the middle in some fashion. So when we're negotiating, what's happening on both ends is there some level of compromise. And what I was taught, this is a script that I'll sometimes use, is I'll say to the other agent, maybe I say to Pam, do you know what the definition of a compromise is? And Pam says, no, I don't know what. And I say definition of a compromise is when each side leaves equally unhappy. So why don't we just meet in the middle? Let's get this thing moving. We'll get to the inspections, or we'll wrap up these inspections, get to the appraisal, and we can move forward with getting this deal done. How's that sound? So the definition of a compromise is when each side leaves equally upset. And obviously that's a little pessimistic, but sometimes it might get the chuckle that you need to break the tension and to be able to figure out, all right, what do we have to do here to move forward? So just give me one moment. I want to be able to get that booklet for Marie real quick. Any questions as I'm putting that together? So for the group overall, I know most of us are newer to the business. Has anyone gone through negotiations yet, or have any experiences with negotiations? Some sort of scenario that we can discuss a little bit as a group?
You have one that kind of brought up with like the appraisal gap. I have a first-time home buyer who put in, I thought it was going to be a strong offer. They put in like the time frame, they're pretty flexible time-wise. They put down, I think it was like 14% over the asking price, which is like competitive in our market. But then, the listing agent came back to us and said, there's 18 other offers. If it doesn't appraise, are they willing to pay the difference. And my buyers, I relayed that message to them, and they just didn't feel like they had enough cash. If there was a, they felt like they were really putting their strongest offer as far as like, the price.
Mhm.
So they didn't have a whole lot of extra cash. So, I mean, that's kind of something that I think we ended up losing out on the offer because of that.
Well, and that's the thing when we speak about, not every situation, not every house, and not every transaction is meant to be. So ultimately, that was not the right scenario for your clients. And sometimes it's about us being able to progressively have stronger expectations we're setting for them, and them to sometimes just experience the pain of losing until they realize, you know what, I do need to start listening to my agent a little bit more. But other times it's just not able to happen because there is another buyer out there, better situations out there for the other side. And that's just something that we're working with. And we then are gonna maybe have to look at more houses. Maybe myself as an agent, I need to figure out ways to find opportunities that there isn't as much competition with. Just being able to figure out how can we get creative to still position you and with, give you the best opportunity here, knowing that you have some factors that play against you compared to some other people. Like equal terms, a cash offer versus a finance offer, cash is getting chosen every single time. So is there something that we can do to make it no longer equal? Or could we have found that property before it ever hit the market? Because now that cash offer doesn't exist since it's only us here. But just,
What are you doing right now for like off market? Are you addressing that?
So I think that, obviously this is a little bit different than negotiating here, but in terms of positioning our clients, having less competition is one way that we can help position them. So being able to leverage your buyer clients as you have conversations with off-market homeowners to see if they'd be interested in selling their home. So door knocking, open houses, circle prospecting, those are just calling your database and your sphere. Those are all ways that we can try to create inventory that doesn't yet exist. And now I know that obviously I have this buyer client. It's going to make it a little bit easier of a conversation for me potentially to reach out to you off market and say, hey, I have a buyer. They're looking for a home between 300,000 and 500,000 in your neighborhood, 3-bed, 2-bath roughly. That's a colonial, at least 1,600 square feet. Do you know anybody that might be interested in selling in the neighborhood? It makes it easier for me to have that script to use if I have that buyer that I can bring for a showing off market tomorrow. And I'm doing great by that buyer because there are 21 of us here. If we take a random 21 agents or a random 20 agents, I'd say at least 19 of them are not doing that. And I'm not saying out of you guys, because obviously you guys are showing that you take action by showing up to Ignite every day and by putting yourself out there to learn and be better equipped for your clients and your business. But most agents are not doing this. I'm sure out of our 21 here, there's probably another 500 or so agents that are all in a similar time frame in the business to what you guys are, and they're choosing not to show up. So think about how many people that are seasoned or not seasoned that are not going that extra mile for their clients. So that in itself is a value proposition that you have. It's also something that you're showing the off-market homeowner, just like when I call the listing agent to let them know we put in an offer, they're seeing I go above and beyond for my clients. Well, the homeowner sees that now too. So they see my work ethic, and who are they going to work with? Are they going to work with the random agent that's never called them before, or the person that says, I have this buyer, we're trying to find off-market opportunities for them because the market is so crazy right now. And I know for me, if it doesn't work for that buyer, then I have a listing opportunity. And I at minimum have another relationship I get to grow over time. But I think being able to speak with off-market homeowners finds me listing inventory for my sales business, and also finds potentially some opportunities for my buyers that are going through a huge struggle right now. It also makes it that I'm not just feeling busy going to 20 showings every week for buyers that are not going to have offers accepted. I'm actually able to be productive by prospecting and trying to find off-market opportunities for them and for myself. Any other questions there that you guys would like to go over before we move on? So the next piece is going to be going over counter tactics. So I believe we have this in our workbook. And can you guys just let me know in the chat, did you end up receiving the PDF for the workbook for anyone that didn't yet have it? Does anyone not have the workbook? If you do, just shout real quick. All right, so let's look at the workbook. We are going to start reading through the tactics. We won't branch out because again, we only have about an hour here, but let's just take about 2 minutes to review it a little bit and to just start thinking of each of the sides. So rather than doing it with a partner, just brainstorm it yourself. We can brainstorm it out loud a little bit, but we don't have a huge group here, so let's do that together a bit.
Hello.
Yep.
Hi, I'm sorry. You said you were going to send me a link. This is Marie.
Yeah, Marie. So I put it in the chat. Do you see it there? There should be a
Yeah.
PDF link in the chat.
I didn't see it.
Okay. I'm going to try one more time sending it to you. Does anyone else see it in the chat right now?
I do see it on my end. It worked on my end, but
Yes, I see it on mine.
I do see it, Sam.
All right, Marie,
Oh.
I'm gonna send it directly to you.
To email or?
No, I'm trying to do it through the chat. If you want, what's your email? I'll email it over to you really quickly.
I gotta write it. Do you have my full name there?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's marie.milord-ijonma@kw.com.
So it's your name with a hyphen in between each section?
With a period between Marie and Milord, and then a hyphen between Milord and Ajonma.
Okay. All right, that should be in your inbox in just a moment.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, so let's look at the workbook for a moment. It is on page 14. We have the counter tactics. So let's take about 60 seconds, review it a little bit, each of us ourselves, and then we can start speaking about it as a group a bit. So let's think about this out loud a little bit. So this first one, nibbling, the action is that once your client has agreed upon one major concession, the other party starts nibbling. And we can think of this as penny pinching for additional smaller concessions to be made. So what is a counter tactic that we can use here?
can you give like an example, I guess, of what that means? That basically saying like they've agreed to give something and then they start being like, oh, well, if they did that, maybe we can get this as well.
Yeah, so let's look at it, let's use that example of the roof leak in that prior one. So the buyer, the property was supposed to be sold as is, and the buyer was able to get them to give a $2,000 credit for the roof. It doesn't need to be fully replaced, but there was some decent work that needed to be done. So they took the price down $2,000 or gave a $2,000 credit for the roof. And now the buyer starts saying, well, there also are some GFCI outlets that need to be changed. And this railing is a little bit loose. There's some chip paint on the windowsills. We want all of those too. But they're adding it later on. They're adding it as an afterthought rather than speaking about all of those things in the beginning. So I think one counter tactic is really just setting the clear expectations here of if we are coming to terms on this, but there's not going to be any other items that we're going over here, especially in a market like this one right now. This nibbling, you know, these little items that are very low monetary value, we might be able to have it written in the purchase and sales agreement in the beginning that the buyer is not asking for any sort of credits or repairs for things that are valued below X amount of dollars. That'll give them the option that if there is a large issue with the roof, that they can ask for that, but they're not asking for these outlets to be replaced or for this paint to be touched up or something like that. So just having it actually written in the beginning will prevent it from happening at all, because contractually it can't. Another thing is just having that clear communication and setting the expectation, if it wasn't written in there already, that, you know, if little things come up here and there in the inspections, we're really not going to be negotiating those. Obviously, if there's something major, we'll have the conversation. So if I'm the listing agent, I'm letting the buyer's agent know that. If I'm the buyer's agent, I'm actually letting my client know that listen, this inspection report is going to be somewhere between 40 and 60 pages. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the house. So we want to focus on these core things. Now, another counter tactic that I can see is actually not just speaking verbally about any repairs, but having the buyer put their request on paper. We here use a repair addendum. So whatever amendments you use in your states, being able to have a document that's saying that we are requesting this $2,000 credit for the roof leak. But it doesn't mention in that scenario any of the others. So it's now signed by the buyer. I then get it signed by my seller. Well, at that point, we're moving past the inspections. We're no longer speaking about these other things anymore. And we have it in writing that now we're moving on. That's a way that we can just completely prevent that. And then another one that I see here is just putting your foot down and being firm. No, that's not going to happen. Whether it be you or your client. But what you want to prevent is that these small little things then come up that only add up to a couple of $100. And when we're speaking about several $100,000 in the grand scheme of things, a couple hundred is nothing. That's no reason to ever lose a deal. But that doesn't mean that all of these little things are going to be added afterwards because it's no reason to lose a deal. So my opinion, the best way to go about it is just having things in writing. So if they're making their repair requests or credit requests, they put that in writing with their buyer already signing it. Now, when my seller signs it, we're locked in. Both parties are locked in. We're moving past the inspections at this point. Any other ideas or any other questions there for the nibbling piece? All right, so next is hot potato. So the other party tries to pass a problem onto you. For example, the co-op agent tries to pass all closing costs to your client because their client, quote unquote, can't afford them.
It's all just like communication again on that one too, right? Just like letting them know like where your client's coming from, the strengths of what you're already offering, you know, trying to find some middle ground if there's like, you know, fees associated, I guess.
Absolutely. Clear communication is going to, and relationships are going to solve a lot of all of this and make things not issues. I think this goes.
You could use that to your advantage, because if they're already asking for that, that could be one of your pieces of negotiation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those could be things that maybe you were negotiating prior. And if they hadn't been negotiated prior and now the other agent is trying to throw it onto your side, you already have a contract put together. I think when you have these contracts put together, it's pretty black and white. And when being more explicit with your verbiage on contracts is really important for that reason. You don't want to leave room for interpretation. So as an example, there was an offer that one of my clients received recently it said subject to property appraising. My opinion, you should write subject to the property appraising at or above purchase price. just because you don't want any world that there is some sort of gray area. And I don't ever anticipate that the sellers or the seller's attorney, if it didn't appraise for the purchase price, would be able to say, yeah, it didn't appraise at purchase price, but it did appraise. We had an appraisal done. I don't anticipate that would ever hold up. However, there is that 1% thought in my mind that by not having it be explicit on the contract, that it could leave that gray area. So I think always communicating with the attorneys, making sure that you're putting things very black and white, cut and dry in the contracts, and that we're using the recommended verbiage and we're not just creating something on our own. That a lot of the times just the contracts can remove these things. And then in other situations, if someone is trying to pass on some problem to you prior to, like during the original negotiatings, then being able to figure out, all right, well, if we're to do this, then what's going to happen for us? How do we benefit here from taking that problem off of your hands? Any questions, any other thoughts there for the hot potato? All right, and then the next one, the good guy, bad guy. Think of this good cop, bad cop type of scenario. Two people working together, such as a husband and a wife, that will take on opposing roles. One appears to be really friendly and considerate, while the other behaves in a difficult or aggressive manner. So think of a typical car salesman that is a good guy, who says to the manager, who is the bad guy, that the manager won't allow him to reduce the price any further.
Do you get this one often in real estate, Sam?
I have seen it. I certainly have seen it. I mean, this could be something as simple as let's say I have the buyer, the listing agent is saying, yeah, I really agree with you guys. They overpriced it, but they won't go any lower than this. This is all they're willing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You'll also see this a lot with a for sale by owner. And sometimes you see this with your own client, that one of them is going to be an a-hole, for lack of better terms, and the other one is really sweet, or at least like moderate. And now you're like constantly having to combat with this one client of yours. So it can happen directly with the opposite side's client. It can happen with the opposite agent in a good guy, bad guy type of scenario. And it can happen with our own clients as well. So let's look at our clients first. How can we overcome this?
I would try to work with the person who is agreeable and work really hard with them and hope that they have a way of helping their partner overcome some of the issues. So the one you connect more easily with, maybe work them a little bit harder and help them kind of pass along what you need the other person to understand.
That is a very good one. Definitely. What else can you guys think of?
I think just trying to like be consistent in your temperament, like maybe not try to like play in, don't try to, mirror too much like what they're doing, try to be consistent with the way you respond to them, and hopefully that'll kind of like calm things down. And
yeah, and I think that goes to always being level. We mentioned that we can't get emotional when they do. They will. You just have to know that. Our clients, the other agents' clients, everyone's going to get emotional besides us. We need to stay very solid and level-headed throughout all of this, because we are the ones that are, the only thing I can control is myself, my actions, and making sure that I'm doing everything I can to help facilitate this for everybody. I can't control, I'm not forcing the client to do anything. I'm not convincing them to do anything. I can only advise them to do what's going to help them get to their own goal. Same thing for the listing side or the other side and their clients. I can't control what anyone's doing besides myself. And I can control if I keep my emotions very leveled. And then I think with our clients specifically goes back to what one of you had brought up earlier today about having a buyer consultation, Just shows the importance of it again. Because if we are setting clear expectations from the get-go, whether it be with a buyer or with a seller, then when the issues do come up later on, no matter what that issue might be, it shouldn't be as difficult of a conversation. Or you'll at minimum be able to fall back on the fact that 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, we've gone over this already. I let you know this is where we were going to be. This is what was going to be happening. This is to be expected. So let's take a minute. Let's sleep on things. We can pick back up in the morning. If this isn't the right property for you, that's completely fine. Or if this isn't the right offer for you, that is completely fine. But let's just take a moment to breathe it in a little bit, and then let's pick back up in the morning. We're not going to lose this overnight. It's 8 o'clock right now. We can always talk about this 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then I think for the other side, being able to what I mentioned earlier of being able to prep them with the script for them to use for their client. You know, if they won't go below a certain price, being able to show them these are the comps. Like what comps are you guys looking at? And then maybe the other agent says, you know, you're right. There aren't different comps that we're looking at. They're wanting that dollar amount. If they don't get it, they're okay with not selling. And then in that scenario, that's when our clients have to be okay also with not selling, with not buying. And it's not the right opportunity. We'll move on to the next one, or we'll revisit this in a couple of weeks. So in the very beginning of today, I brought up how I've been negotiating one deal for 2 weeks now. I don't think it's going to end up getting together, but we are still having conversations about every 3 or 4 days to see if there is some sort of middle ground that we can come to. Some compromise that everyone's equally unhappy, but it gets them to their goals ultimately at the end of the day. All right, we're going to continue moving on just to make sure that we wrap up with everything for today. Any questions before we move on to the next step? So we are going to go over the 3 Ps and using them a little bit more in a live scenario. So going through some real play here. Bear with me for one moment. So real quickly, before we dive into these 3 Ps here again, just discussing the most common points of negotiation. There's really 2 of them. And as a recap, can anyone give me the 2 that they can think of? From like a bird's eye perspective, things that we're negotiating during transactions. What's the most obvious one?
Price.
Absolutely. All right, so one of them is price. And what covers everything else?
Terms.
Absolutely. Those are the 2. Price and terms, those are the things that we are negotiating. So now the 3 Ps, just as a recap: prepare, present, and position. And then understanding that there will be counter tactics that we're using along the way. There will be scripts that we're prepping the other agents with. There will be scripts and scenarios that we bring up to our clients. There will be how and what questions that we're asking both sides, our clients and the other side, to really figure out what is the ideal situation here for everybody. And is there some common ground that we can come to? If not, we move on to the next one. And if there is, then we have an opportunity here. But let's figure that out as quickly as possible, while also allowing our clients to feel as most comfortable. And really, again, like I brought up, enjoy the experience overall. So in your booklet, I just want to pull up exactly which page we're on now. Page 15, the real play of employing the 3 Ps. I'm going to see if I haven't used this before. I'm going to see if I can get you guys to be in groups together.
I think that's page 14 on the one that you sent us.
Right.
Oh, is it 14? Okay, 14. On the top, it says real play and employ the 3 Ps.
Yeah.
All right. Right now, I'm not seeing how I can get you into separate rooms. So what I'd like everyone to do is just take about 5 minutes. We'll be back on at 11:20. Review the 2 of them, the buyer agent role, the listing agent role. Think about how you can have that conversation and facilitate that situation from each of the 2 sides. What would you do if you were in the shoes of one
Real
of them?
quick,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I think to get into breakout rooms, there's like a the right side. I don't know if you're on a computer or a phone, but on the right side there's like an options button, and it should say like join breakout rooms.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Nick.
No problem.
All right, so I'm going to do 6 breakout rooms here. I'm going to assign it automatically. So in the next couple of seconds, you should be in breakout rooms. We'll do that for about 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll be back on together at 11:20. Anyone that's not yet joined a room, you'll have a button that popped up. Just click to join the room, and then we'll be back together soon. How did the conversations go overall for everybody? Any big takeaways? What was something that you really liked that someone in your group had mentioned?
In our group, what we ended up talking about a little bit was the fact that we wish we had more information on the buyer, because we didn't know if they were cash and how quickly they could move, because that was a big factor for our listing.
Okay.
So we felt like we could squeeze the price a little. We could probably try to stick closer to their range if we knew a little bit more about their timing.
Okay. What about from other groups? What other things, whether it be on the buyer agent role or the listing agent role, something that you really liked, or some sort of obstacle that you felt you were against?
Well, on the updating, we thought we might have to show the seller some other like comps, because one person's updating may not be what the other person is thinking as well. They might thought, well, I updated in the 90s and, you know, it's all stainless steel, but it may be at this point, you know, 20 years old. So maybe show them some other comps in their neighborhood to say, okay, well, yes, you do have stainless steel, but these other people have Viking or Sub-Zero, you know, making that more valuable kitchen or master bath, as they were talking about.
Sometimes that even happens with like a leak in the bathroom sink. You know, it's constantly dripping, and they're like, well, I've been living with this for 3 years. It doesn't bother us. When I was growing up, and I hate to say this, but when I was probably maybe 14 or 15 years old, my dad is by no means handy. And our ceilings growing up in our living room were about 15 to 20 feet tall, big vaulted ceilings. And there was a smoke detector all the way on the top. My dad's also scared of heights. And my mom is not too tall herself. He's tall, but she's not tall. Well, if she went on a ladder, she couldn't reach the smoke detector. And he just wasn't willing to do it. So, you know, when a smoke detector runs out of batteries, it starts chirping. It sounds like a bird the whole time. It'll start chirping like every couple of minutes, and sometimes even more frequently than that. I believe we probably had this for between 6 to 12 months, this constant chirping going on. And finally, my cousin's fiance came over, and he was about my dad's height. He was a really handy guy, not afraid of heights, gets up on the ladder. And within 5 minutes of him being in my house, I'd never met him before, he had already switched out the smoke detector. But for my parents, it was like, well, we live with this. What are you talking about? You know, that, you know, something needs to change here. That is just such a small example of how some people, when you live with something, they see it as completely fine. Someone else walks in the door, and within seconds, they're like, no, that's not okay. Same thing goes for a kitchen, for a bathroom, for a leak in the sink, or for that chirping smoke detector, whatever it might be. So definitely being able to bring them more level of, I understand this is what you are living with, but the buyer is not walking into your home. They are walking into their home. So how can we change their perspective there a little bit? And then on the buyer agent side, you mentioned about being able to know more of their situation, understanding their financing terms and whatnot. I think overall, just having a broader understanding of our clients, what their goals are, talking through it, asking those how and what questions, and really listening, not telling them the answers that we think we want to know, really finding out what are the answers, and also having our clients understand, I'm not here negotiating against you. I am here to negotiate on your behalf and help you get to that goal that you are looking to accomplish. And if you hold information from me because you think that you have to hold your cards close, then not only are you working against the other side, but you're now also working against me. And how am I able to help facilitate this for you? So having our clients really understand that we are here as a resource for them, as a consultant for them. And this, in my opinion, goes back to not really caring about this one commission check. Obviously, I want to get paid. I need to make money. I need to feed my family, pay my mortgage. But I'm not looking at this transaction. I'm looking at this relationship, and this transaction is an obstacle that we're getting through together right now. But we need to have clear communication with one another and full transparency, so I can help you figure out, is this the right opportunity or not? And put you well before any one deal. But if I don't know exactly what you're looking to accomplish, or if you're not telling me everything here, then I can't help you figure out if this is going to be the right one or not. Buyer or seller side. Any other big takeaways during the groups or ideas that you've come up with since coming back of other ways that we can approach this? Any other questions in general before we move on?
Personally, for you, I mean, are you actually negotiating at all these days? If you're the listing agent, is there any negotiation going on? The only thing I could think of is this. I'm in the process of dealing with doing buyer representation, and the seller has electric stove is negotiable, and the lawnmower or whatever. But I mean, is that the type of negotiation you're seeing, or is it? I mean, because I can't imagine with getting multiple offers that there's much negotiation going on.
Yeah, my view is there are certainly times that we negotiate. There are certain things we put our foot down for, but I do see that we're problem solvers a lot more than negotiators, at least in the traditional terms of negotiating. Now, a stove being potentially included and being negotiable, or a lawnmower being negotiable with the sale. If my client wants that, I'm just writing that in the offer. And if we're getting full asking price, then we're probably on the listing side including it. Like if my seller is not including his $200 used lawnmower because he wants an extra $200, then I'll tell him, keep your damn lawnmower and bring it to your next house, or go sell it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. But I'm not here to negotiate the sale of a lawnmower. I'm here for this $500,000 sale, not for the $200 used piece of crap that probably doesn't even work. So I think we don't do like a traditional bartering type of negotiating, that if you walk to a flea market and there's this painting that you really like, they're selling it for $20, and you only have $10 in your pocket, or only $10 that you're showing them. I have $10. If not, I'm gonna be heading out of here. Is it $10 or not? That's not as much of what we're doing, at least in my opinion. We're problem solving. Now, I do think there are certainly times that it comes up. And then another thing that will happen is, like I mentioned in the beginning, I had that listing of mine, the agent that I knew really well, and I knew she ran a smooth deal, was 15,000 below our highest offer, which was a very good offer. But all of the terms, if she was $15,000 higher, not only would all the terms be equal, but I also felt a lot more confident in her getting the deal done. That if she said, Sam, we are going to be able to do $300,000, and we have all of the other same terms, I felt more confident in her saying, Sam, I'll get this deal done, than an agent that I have absolutely no clue of who they are. They never once picked up the phone to introduce themselves. Like if I know nothing about them, I just can't feel as confident in you, because I have someone that I have this relationship with. So in that scenario, even though we had multiple offers, I think we had 18 offers on that property, I absolutely negotiated. It's just that I didn't tell the $300,000 offer that they had to go more than 50,000 above asking. I told this offer for 285, listen, we had 18 offers. We have about 3 of them that are between 295 and 300. We want to work with you guys, but this is too big of a difference for us to make up just because we feel confident in you. If you match them, then we'll move forward with you guys. That absolutely was negotiating. But more so, in my opinion, was problem solving. My problem and my seller's problem, we had offers 50,000 above asking. We had to figure out if we'd appraise. That was the problem. But beyond that, the biggest problem is I don't know these other agents. These are random people I've never spoken to before, and they never picked up the phone to tell me about themselves, to show me their work ethic. and I have this other person I've worked consistently with in the past. So now I want to make sure that we are not only getting a great price, but are going to have a great transaction process moving forward once we are under contract. So I solved that problem by being able to get this other person to come up. Another example is I have another property that it was listed for $369. We got offers, several offers. One of them had an escalation clause all the way up to 400. But based on the terms of the other offers and how much they would beat them by, their offer was only going to be 382. So I knew obviously that they would go up to 400. And I had that they were going to beat them, I think, by $3,000. So our highest was 379, which pushed them to 382. So I told the buyer's agent that right now we sit at 382, but that isn't enough of a difference. That $3,000 I didn't see as enough of a difference to really make it worthwhile for us to just move forward with you. So what I would like to do here, before I call all of these other buyer's agents and tell them that we have a higher offer, and ultimately just bring your price all the way up to 400 anyway, you're still going to beat them by $3,000, but you're going to have to go up a hell of a lot more than you are right now. Instead of doing that, if you guys go to 385, now you have a $6,000 difference between you and the next highest offer. It's not what the terms were based on your offer. I'm asking you to go above what you were willing to do, but it's also, it's 15,000 less than you will do. So if you do that now, I'm not even going to ask these other people to come up. I'm just going to tell them that we're moving forward with a different offer. So again, that was problem solving. The problem was we didn't have a large enough discrepancy to really make a difference. We still would have gone forward with that person at 382, but it wasn't enough of a difference to say absolute no-brainer other than the price, because everything was about equal besides the price. Now they came up further. I solved the problem of not having a large discrepancy between the offers. And I also presented a better solution and prepped that buyer's agent with the script to use for her client, that although you're not obligated to come up another 3,000, you should, because if you don't, this listing agent is going to bid your price up and you're still going to win, but you're going to win at 400 instead of at 385. So I think, again, that was another situation, certainly negotiating, but not saying, hey, I got this painting for $20, but if you give me 15, I'll give you 2 of them.
Information, thank you.
I have a quick question. So when you're saying you're negotiating the price, like you're going over all the contracts, isn't it in the agent, I mean, the seller's decision? Like, wouldn't they go through all the offers and say they just pick the highest one, or do you go over each individual with them?
So it absolutely is the seller's decision. And in that scenario that I had mentioned about getting both of those buyer's agents to come up, one to come up an extra 15 and the other one to come up another 3,000. In both of those scenarios, I ran the idea by my client. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. Do I have the flexibility to do that here? And I was able to do that after presenting all of the offers.
Okay. All
so
right.
I do present all of them. However, when you, especially right now as a listing agent, you might have 20 offers. So what you could do then is put them in a spreadsheet and say, all right, we have these offers that are, let's pretend we listed for 500. We have these offers between 450 and 485, and there's 4 of them. And then we have another cluster of offers between 485 and 505, and there's another 4 of them. And these last 4 offers are all between 425 and 525 and 540. So anything below these 525 offers, those other 8, are we okay to just move on from them for right now and really focus on these core 4? And they're going to say, yeah. Now, if one of them is cash, then I'm going to highlight, certainly. All right, I'm going to tell them the terms. We have these offers, they're in this range, but I'm not going to dive into this one. You know, for 450, 50,000 below our asking price and 90,000 below our highest offer. I'm not going to say, all right, this one is for 450. They're a cash buyer. They have a 30-day closing period. This is the pros. This is the cons of this buyer, of this offer. Here is their pre-approval letter. And here is a copy of the offer for you to let's go line item by line item together. I would say big picture, this is what we're looking at for these ones. These are the numbers, these are the terms, but they are far away from our other ones. Are we okay to move on from those?
Okay.
So that way you can really dive into the ones that make the most sense. Any written offer I present to my clients, I'm obligated by law to present to my clients. But I'm not going into full detail necessarily for the ones that really don't make any sort of sense.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right, so these last couple of pieces here that we want to do to wrap up for today, recap and creating your success list. So let's go over some ahas from today. Just in general, what type of ahas have you guys had? Could be anything that we've gone over.
Well, everything that you just said for me was an aha. I mean, the whole thing, you're not negotiating, you know, $100 lawnmower, you know, when someone gets full asking price, it doesn't make sense to the seller to go through this. You have 9 items that you want to do and want these customers to pay for, you know, really, because I'm about to go through this, now I know how to deal with it. And so it very valuable information, and just knowing that I can explain to my seller in the future that, no, let's not nickel and dime this person over, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 worth of extra stuff, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and that goes to being able to set the right expectations for everyone too. I think just having really clear communication, asking strong questions, listening to them, figuring out what are they really looking to achieve here, and understanding that we are a team. We are not competing against one another. We are a team. I am here to consult on your behalf and help you get to this goal that you've created for yourself. I'm not going to force you into any situations. I'm okay if nothing ever happens here, as long as I'm providing you with the best experience possible, because I know that's what's going to help you at the end of the day. That's what's going to also allow my business to continue growing.
I like the fact that we can consider ourselves as bringing back options to the table for our buyers or sellers. So we're giving them their choices, and so they can't be upset with us because we're just presenting what's being offered. So like you said, bring that camaraderie. This is what we have. What can we work with it? You know, and then kind of have a powwow amongst each other to be creative, and then go back and negotiate again. That was one of the things I thought was really important today, and not rushing the actual, like you said, you've been negotiating for 2 weeks on something. I come from a car sales background. I sold for Ford, and I'm a closer. So it's a whole different concept. Obviously we have a massive, you know, real estate transaction as opposed to a day, you know, of buying a car, but closing is important. But in this, sometimes letting things cool and taking the emotion out of it and just helping guide the people through it. And, you know, like you said, a night of sleep, they might wake up the next day and say, you know, 3,000 really wasn't a big deal. And maybe, you know, maybe we could kick in for closing costs or whatever. And I think not rushing it in a lot of cases, if we have the luxury of time, is important.
Definitely. And at a certain point, you don't have an unlimited amount of time. You know, that offer I've been negotiating for 2 weeks, we can do that because we haven't had other offers we're ready to move forward with. So that has kept the line of communication open for everybody. The house needs some work. This is a cash offer, no inspections, to close pretty quickly. It's just that the numbers they're looking at it from an investor standpoint, and we're looking at it from a homeowner standpoint that is looking to buy its next property. However, it doesn't really need to move. He just kind of wants to. He wants to be able to get something different. So the investor price and my client's motivation and situation, they don't match up, at least not yet. Now, if we're not far off, we're fairly close. We're probably realistically about 10,000 apart, which when you're speaking about homes that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's not a huge discrepancy. But when all is said and done, I think we're really looking at a $10,000 difference. We need to come down 10, they need to come up 10, which puts us each 10 away from where we currently stand. So if we receive an offer, let's say, if we were to meet in the middle, that brings us to 500. And there is an offer that comes in for 520 from somebody else, or for 500 from someone else, or whatever it might be. There's an offer that we're basically ready to move forward with. Well, now that other buyer is going to have some urgency. And for me, this isn't negotiating necessarily. This is making sure I'm doing my due diligence for my client. I'm going to call that buyer's agent if I've received this other offer that we're ready to go with, and say, hey, we just received this offer. I want to give you the opportunity to come to where we were asking you to be. And if not, then we're going to move forward with this other one. But I at least want to give you the opportunity here. And now you as a buyer, now you do have the urgency. Time has run up. You have to make a decision here. We're not going to be able to continue negotiating for 2 weeks. You have 2 hours. What are you doing? And if it doesn't work, fine, that doesn't work. We move forward with this other offer. You find a different property. But if it does work now, because the urgency is there and it's coming from an outside force, you have to make a decision. What other takeaways do you guys have from today? So overall, through Ignite, what we're looking to accomplish is working together to help you think, feel, act, and use the knowledge that you have to basically help you facilitate things for your clients, and ultimately be able to lead the life and have the business that you are looking to achieve based on what your goals are. The more people we can help, the more of you I can help, ultimately it's going to lead to me hitting more of my goals. The more clients you can help, the more clients I can help, helps us, again, achieve our goals. There's some level of selfishness in there, but it all comes through giving and providing to people. So what really just, going back to it, we're looking to help you think, feel, take different actions, have different knowledge that you can utilize for the future to put you in a better situation.
I think another thing I took away today was reminding me as a brand new agent, making sure that I do have very capable people behind me to shadow my deals and make sure I'm doing everything properly, because your first clients are often your friends and family, and those are the people you really want to work hard for. And so having somebody, a broker behind you, even if I'm an independent, but I'm having somebody shadow my deals, giving a percentage away, which is, I'm not focusing on the money at this point anyhow. I'm focusing on getting the process down. So the level of making sure I'm doing the right thing for my clients each step is my most important goal. So I think Ignite, I went through Bold prior to this, which was fun. This is a whole different activity set and a whole different learning experience. But that's what I'm getting out of the whole thing at this point, is the level of what I have to offer, make sure it's top quality, even if it costs a little bit more.
I love that. And, making an investment into yourself, your business, your clients, it's all Bold, Ignite, your coaching, your mentor, just podcasts you listen to. You're going to take bits and pieces from everyone. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, when I came back to Keller Williams, I consciously decided to come back here, not just for productivity coaching, but also for the next phase of my business and long-term for what I'm looking to accomplish. I saw Keller Williams without a doubt as the best resource for that. And it goes by same thing for me. I'm at a little bit different of a level than all of you are, but I'm sure you're all going to be there very soon. And it comes from being able to do these types of education classes, by going to Bold, by being able to do different, sessions and masterminds within your local market center. And as a perfect example of it, just the reach that you have here, the only person I know today is Pam. And I hope that I've been able to provide value, help you think a little bit differently, approach the business a little bit differently, and you'll take bits and pieces of things that you hate that I say and do, and things that you love that I say and do. And you take that from everybody, and you're going to be able to create then how your business looks for yourself. But being able to not consume too much that it delays you taking action, but still learning from everybody along the way is something that basically forever, for your time in the business, I hope all of you continue to take advantage of. And huge shout out to all of you, because like we mentioned earlier, there's 14 of you still on today. And we had about 27 of you, I believe, when we had at the height for today. There's at least, I would say, 500 people in our region that are in a similar boat, and probably a lot more than that, similar time frame to what you are in the business. And they decided not to show up. And maybe they have some other things happening. They'll watch the recording. They've shown up every other day, or they're showing up as frequently as they can. But at minimum for today, all of you decided to show up, and you're gonna be better for it. Or at least I hope I've been able to help you be better for it long term.
You definitely have. Thank you.
So just to wrap things up for today, these last couple of minutes, any questions before we move on to the final stage? All right, so just as a refresher, so goals to be able to really progress your business at a rapid rate, being able to add 10 contacts a day, have 10 conversations a day, 10 handwritten notes a day, and 10 home previews per week. That's something that if you guys all focus on doing that 5 days a week, or however many days you have available to you, you are going to be very far progressed in your business over the course of these next 12 months. So out of everyone that's still here right now, how many of you are doing these, whether your goal in order to hit your financial goals, it's based on these numbers of 10, 5, 15, 50, how many of you are consistently doing what you know that you need to in order to hit your goals? Just do like a quick raise of your hand. All right, how many of you maybe have some room to grow to be able to get there?
Oh, we can all grow.
All right, that's what, Julie, was that you that said that?
Yes, we can all grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how many of you maybe just don't even have the clarity yet of what your numbers need to look like on a daily and weekly basis to hit your financial goals? And if you are one of those people raising your hand for that last part, definitely speak to your local leadership at your market center and be able to start reverse engineering your numbers. Look at the MREA, look at the economic model, figure out what do you need to do every week to be able to be projected and hit your income goal for the year. If you're at the point right now that you raise your hand for that second question that you have room to grow, same thing. Because the problems you face day one are going to be a lot different than the problems you face day 90 or after transaction 100. And then for everyone that is currently hitting your goals, again, being able to push yourself a little bit more if you want to, and figure out what is the next stage of development for yourself. But definitely lean on the other people that you have open to you, just like you were able to learn some from showing up today. So with scripts, are there any scripts that you guys have questions with that you'd like to go over these next couple of minutes? All right, one script that I want to give to you. How many of you guys have been calling for sale by owners? All right, so with for sale by owners, I feel very strongly we're all going to excel in different avenues. But one of the great things about for sale by owners is they're already raising their hand saying, I want to sell my house. This is my address. This is my phone number. Here are some photos, and this is the price I'm looking for. The majority of them will be unsuccessful in selling on their own. And right now, maybe more of them are a little bit more successful than on average. But over the course of time, National Association of Realtors did a study, and I believe it's about 60% or 80% are unsuccessful in selling on their own. And out of that 80%, roughly 60% of them end up listing with an agent. So I just want to give you a script that I utilize that I've had a lot of success with for sale by owners to start building a relationship with them. So there's two ways that I view that you can go about it. The first is that you call them and you say, hey, have you thought about listing with an agent? What's your situation like? Here are the things that I'd be able to provide for you. If I can help you hit your goals, you know, would it be worth having that type of conversation? I think that totally works. Absolutely works. Depends who the person is that's using that script. I personally do not use that script because it hasn't worked as well for me. But you know, whether it be you know, Pam, Julie, Nick, one of you guys might be much more successful at that. So trying different scripts is always important. The script that I use is that I'm choosing not to ask for business right now. I'm choosing to start building a relationship with this person because I know the way the numbers shake out, the majority of them will end up listing with an agent. I want to be the agent of choice by having that relationship with them. So when I call them, I have basically a 5-step process that I use with for sale by owners. And if anybody wants me to email it to them afterwards, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Just send me an email and I'll send you the bullet point. I'm going to put my phone number in here also if you need anything. So the 5-step process, step number 1 is I'm calling them. That's the major thing that I can control. Am I taking action here? So I'm going to pretend Pam is the for sale by owner. So I'm going to say, hey, Pam, this is Sam Alperin with Keller Williams. I'm calling regarding your property on 123 Main Street, or I noticed your listing on Zillow for 123 Main Street. So step 1, calling, introducing myself and the reason for me calling. Step number 2 is my first question. And the whole step 2 is just one question. Are you open to compensating a buyer's agent? Pam, I don't want to waste any of your time. I'm sure you've gotten a ton of calls from agents asking for listings. That's not why I'm calling you. I'm interested in finding out, are you willing to compensate a buyer's agent? If an agent were to have a prospective buyer for you, are you open to paying them a commission? And what I'm looking for is that they're at least saying 2%. They're probably saying between 2 and 3. If someone says 4, then I know sooner than later I need to go after this listing, because why the hell would they do 4% and not list with an agent? But I'm looking to at least hear that they are reasonable people. They're probably going to say, yeah, it's negotiable, or yeah, we're offering 2%. But I just want to know that they're at least willing to do half of it. Because now over time, these next couple of days, these next couple of weeks or months, whatever it might be, the only thing that I'm looking to do is they're now representing themselves, and they will have pain points and things that they have to do as their own listing agent. I want to show the value in me being the listing agent over time, if it matches up for both of us. So step 2 is asking if they'd be willing to compensate a buyer's agent. Step 3 is going to have a list of about 3 to 5 questions that I'm asking specific to their property and their situation. And the main thing I'm doing here is I'm showing them that I'm not just blindly calling a list of for sale by owners. I'm actually looking at your listing. So I'm not going to call Pam and say, Pam, what do you have the property listed for? Pam would say, it's sitting there right in front of you. And I know that because I actually did that by accident once. Very early on, I did it by accident. I was looking at the listing, but I asked what it's listed for instead of how they got to that number. So just making sure that you're not asking questions that you clearly know the answer to if you were looking at the listing. You're having this revolving list of 3 to 5 questions that you can ask anybody, but you're just asking it to them specific about their property. So Pam, how did you come up with that number for 300,000? How did they determine their price? How soon are they looking to move? Are they open to a shorter time frame? Do they need to buy a property? There's only 5 photos of the house. The other areas of the house, what type of condition is it in? Do they have other photos that they can email to you? Because now I have their email address too if they do that. Or I see maybe they have a lot of photos. Some of them do it very well. And I see that the kitchen's really updated. Did they do the updates or did they buy it in that condition? What type of updates did they do? I'm just getting them speaking about their situation, their property. So that's step 3. Step 4 is now I want to get in the door. And I'm not getting in the door trying to get the listing. I'm also not telling them I have a buyer that I'm bringing. I want to get in the door for a preliminary walkthrough. And the way I pitch it to them is instead of scheduling a whole bunch of showings, whether it be, 5, 6, 7 showings with buyers that may or may not make sense, I would love to, instead of wasting their time, I'd love to waste 10 minutes of my time. I'd love to just do a quick walkthrough, get my eyes on the property from the buyer's perspective. And then that way I can communicate with my clients, with the other agents in my office. If I'm on a team, the other agents on my team, or if I'm in a productivity program, the other agents in this productivity program, whoever it might be, I can speak to my clients. I can speak to everybody else, have them speak with their clients and see if any of us have the right buyer for you. At that point, we'll be able to schedule the showings that truly make sense instead of scheduling a whole bunch of things all different hours and days of the week. I know that maximizes my time, and I also might not even have the buyer. I'm not sure yet. I could have the buyer in the future, but I don't know for sure if I have a buyer right now. But I'm phrasing it in a way that actually maximizes their time. I'll waste my time instead of wasting your time. So how are you going about showings? And now I'd love to schedule a walkthrough. When I do that, I'm giving them 2 times that work for me. I'm not asking them what works for them. This goes for every client ever. Every meeting you ever do, I always advise that you do this. Take control of your calendar and your schedule. For me, I live 5 minutes from the beach in Rhode Island. In the middle of July, if I ask a for sale by owner, what's your schedule look like? When is a good time for you? They're going to say, how about we do Saturday at 12:30? Now I can't go to the beach in the beginning of the day. Can't go to the beach afterwards. I just screwed my whole beach day. So if I would have said to them, it's Tuesday at 12 o'clock right now. If I would have said to them, I'm free tomorrow, I can do 3 o'clock. I also can do Thursday at either 10 or 2. Which of those would be better for you? I'm at least giving myself the opportunity to have it work in my calendar versus what I ideally don't want to do. Now, if the only time literally that I can do is Saturday, 12:30, I know that me being in this business, it's one of the things that I have to do. But I at least want to put myself in the position not to have that happen. So step 4 is scheduling that preliminary walkthrough. Step 5, add them to your database, follow up with them in the future. Put them on a smart plan, tag them, whatever you need to do. Follow up with them in the future, build the relationship. But now when I go to the appointment, when I go to that showing, I will know within 5 minutes if I have a real chance of working with this person in the future or not, because I will see, do I click with them? If they rush me in and out, I'm certainly going to follow up with them and try to get their business in the future if it matches up for both of us. But there will be some people that they invite you to sit at the kitchen table or to circle around the kitchen island, sit on the back deck, whatever it might be, and have a conversation. And now I'm not giving a full listing presentation, but I am really starting to build a relationship in that point in time. So I'm booking myself for about an hour, even though I might only be there for 15 minutes. But I just want to make sure I have blocked in my calendar an hour to start building this relationship. And now every week I'll be able to follow up with you. If I have a buyer, I'm bringing them immediately. If I don't have a buyer, I'll follow up with you every week, let you know. I want to let you know, Pam, that I don't have a buyer. That way, if you have a buyer come this weekend, you're not waiting on Sam. And let's say you did have 2 buyers come this weekend. Well, I'll call you Monday morning. How did it go with them? Did you get any offers? Is there any advice I can offer to you? And I'm going to start doing these things for free. I'm going to start learning your pain points, things that you're not enjoying, things that aren't going as smoothly for you. And also, if they invite me to have a conversation at that first appointment, if I think they're reasonably priced, like if I would take the listing at the price they're currently at right now, I will let them know that I think that they're in a reasonable price range. If I think it's aggressive, I'll let them know that. If I think it's low, I'll let them know. But if I think they're in a reasonable price range, I will say, Pam, I think you're honestly, here are some comps. I always leave comps with them and my listing packet, basically like the same packet I would bring to a listing presentation. I bring that and the comps and I leave it for them just so they have some materials to look over later. I let them know the first half of it is all fluff. And when they're, wired later tonight, flip through this for a few minutes, you'll knock right out, just to get them to chuckle a little bit. And I show them on the back, here's your tax assessment, here are comps for your property. This is what you really want to be looking at. So that, I just, anytime I go to a for sale by owner, you obviously don't have access to MLS. I just want to be able to provide you some value. Here are some properties. This is what your active competition is. These are the sales that the appraisers are going to be looking at. And these are the other properties that are currently under contract. Same thing I would be doing for a traditional listing appointment. And now I'll say, as we're going through these comps, Pam, obviously, you're priced fairly well. If you can save the 2.5%, 3% commission and make this happen in a timely manner, still net the same amount of money that you're looking for, then absolutely do that. I understand why you're trying to do it. I'm not fighting you on this. But because you're reasonably priced and with the way the market is right now, if this doesn't happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks, then whether it be me or anyone else, I think you should start speaking with some people and seeing if there's an agent that can offer you something as a better solution to get there. Because now I'm just planting the seed in their mind that if it doesn't happen in the next 14 days, shit, I got to call some, excuse me, Keller Williams, I'm sorry about that. I have to call somebody. If it doesn't happen in a timely manner, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm just not getting the activity that I need to get and that I could get on the market. And overall with the for sale by owner, I want to communicate with them over time. They're looking to save 2.5 or 3%, but that's not their goal. Their goal is to net the most amount of money possible. So I'm not looking to save you any money. I'm looking to have you net the most. You don't care if you pay me $50,000 if it helps you get an extra 100,000 because you're still 50 positive. So my goal absolutely is not to save you a penny. My goal is to maximize this for you and get you the most amount of money possible. And then there's obviously everything else they're doing on the listing agent end for themselves that they're either dropping the ball on or just having to take the responsibility for. That's a whole nother conversation. But those are the things that in terms of your value proposition, you'll be able to start communicating as they recognize the pain points. You'll be able to start pressing on them, especially because they know there's this ticking clock for their time frame. Excuse me, it's been a long day. Ticking clock for their time frame that, it's been day 17. Sam said if this doesn't happen in 14 days, we should start interviewing people. What's going on? We haven't had any offers yet. So now I'm consistently in communication with them. I'll have at least an opportunity to earn their business. All right. Thank you guys. I know we're going a little bit long, so we'll wrap up here, but anything else that you guys want to go over before we jump off for today?
How successful are you with that for sale by owner?
That is for sale by owners and expires is how I've built my business. I started when I was 24. First 6 months, Pam's probably heard me say this before. First 6 months, I didn't do anything. I was working 60-hour weeks roughly, probably lead generating for 20 or 30 hours a week. Didn't close any business. And then by month 10, I would say, I at one time had 14 under contract. At one time, I had closed some already by that point, but I at one time had 14 under contract. That was exclusively built off of expired listings and for sale by owners and using that approach with the for sale by owners, because I knew that my goal, I never wanted to have a day I didn't book an appointment. So what's the quickest way to book an appointment? Well, why don't I just go to a for sale by owner's house? Like I figured that out as my team leader. He challenged me, call people until you book an appointment. I was like, all right, I'm just going to book an appointment before 9:30. Why not? Now the rest of the day, all right, I can do whatever I want. Obviously I was still working, but I knew that it was the quickest way for me to book an appointment and to get in front of someone that is actively looking to sell their home. And out of all the for sale by owners, if you call 100 of them, you use the script that immediately is trying to talk about listings, you might be able to get 1 out of 100. That certainly might happen. And other people, maybe they can do a lot better than 1 out of 100. For me, I think I'd probably be at 1 or 2 out of 100. But if I'm calling 100 for sale by owners, I'm okay with delaying it slightly and having closer to 6 or 10 that I'm winning. And that's basically the type of conversion ratios that I was seeing. That probably about 8% of them, I would say, I ended up getting the listing with, and almost every one of them closed the deal for. Two of them double-ended from the buyer coming directly to me. So I've had awesome success with it. It does depend on your approach, your personality. And that's why I mentioned the other avenue might be better for you. So try both of them out and see what works better. But there is a huge opportunity in front of you because a lot of them will end up listing with an agent. Even right now, a lot of them will end up listing with an agent. So being able to get that listing, if you price it right within the first 2 weeks, you have a deal under contract right now. So why not go to the person that's already raised their hand and saying they're willing to do it?
Are you going to post the 5 steps?
Email me if you would like those. I'll send that over in an email to anyone that reaches out to me. All right. Any other questions for today?
We're good. Thank you.
No, thanks.
Thank you
Appreciate
all
it.
for
Good
being
job, Sam.
patient and jumping back on after we had that little hiccup there. And overall, thank you for taking action in your business. If you continue to do this every day, then you all are going to be in a very good spot very soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you ever
Thank
need
you. I'll be in
anything,
touch.
text me.
It's awesome.
Look forward to working with you all in the future.
Absolutely. Great.